There was one real big moment of drama, and that was Charles Leclerc, the championship leader, spinning out from third position. And this was all about a fight between Leclerc and Sergio Perez on Sunday. And Perez did an absolutely cracking job all weekend, did the perfect job for Red Bull, and he actually helped Red Bull secure their first 1-2 for 6 years. That's how impressive it was for Perez. They've been struggling to find a second driver capable of delivering these results. And Checo, particularly this year, looks like the man to step up and do it. And this graph really can show us the battle that went on then between Leclerc in the red solid line and Perez in the dotted blue. And we can see then the first part of the race, they're all on intermediates, they're not going particularly quickly, and you've got Verstappen controlling the race out front, and then a very fine distance between the dotted blue of Perez and the red of Leclerc. So Leclerc is hassling the back of Sergio Perez. And then we get the first moment here, which is Perez pitting a lap earlier than Charles Leclerc. So Perez reacts to the Ricciardo stop. Ricciardo is the guinea pig that stopped to show everyone that slick tyres were ready. Red Bull and Perez jump in first. Leclerc comes in the lap after. And it's really, really tight for Leclerc actually to overcut Sergio Perez, which normally shouldn't really be particularly possible in these conditions. The sooner you put the slicks on, the better. But Perez had a great weekend, but he didn't do a particularly stunning outlap on his slick tyres. Even compared to a lot of the other midfielders, he lost a lot of time in the middle sector. And this telemetry, again with Checo in the blue colour and Charles Leclerc, his own outlap, the lap after in the red, you can see where he lost a heap of time, and it is in the chicane here, where Checo's actually quite cautious. He's very early on the brakes, he slows it down a lot, and he's very slow coming out, and he loses an absolute monster amount of time. This is the time graph, and when it's falling down, Leclerc is gaining time. This is the slick tyre compared to the slick tyre, but also Perez was a little bit cautious here compared to the likes of Sebastian Vettel as well, who pitted at the same time. So that gave Charles Leclerc a real chance to fight with Checo when he came out of the pits for an overcut, and it was very, very close. Here we go then. Leclerc emerges from the pits. It looks like he should be fine because Checo's only just coming into view, but when you come out of the pits on the slick tyres on the damp track, it's so treacherous, and you can see him slithering out there. You can see the water coming off his rear tyres, and now Perez is attacking at full racing speed, but still Leclerc's comfortably ahead into Tamburello, the first corner. But this part is so tricky. You've got to figure out the grip. You're on the dry line now, but how hard do you push? It's always a balance. And Perez has had one flying lap already, or one out lap, to work this all out. So Leclerc goes defensive. This is a battle for P2, and he kind of goes as defensive as he dares, because you can see the line of moisture then on that part, and the dry line on the other side. So Leclerc doesn't want to go right to the inside to cover this, as you would expect, but he goes to as far as he dares, and that is why this move from Perez is quite as good as it is, because he goes right over the damp part. He's risking quite a lot at this stage because he's on slick tyres on quite a wet track. He's also approaching with a lot of speed, trying to go for an overtake, but he just goes for it. He knows this is his chance. He's been ahead of the Ferrari for the first part of the race, and he goes straight over the wet part. A little bit of moisture coming off his tyres as well, but then gets it back to the racing line, the dry part, and keeps the place. So Leclerc almost looked like he had second place there, but great bit of driving from Sergio Perez, and he managed to come back through. And we've seen the outlaps of the two of them, and Leclerc was slightly quicker than Perez on the outlap. But the driver that was so impressive for me on the outlap is actually Max Verstappen, the race leader, and he's in the blue here compared to Leclerc in the red, and this is his first corner. And you can see the blue line for Verstappen, he's braking later than Leclerc into turn one, and he's just way quicker through the exit of this part as well. He's full throttle. This is the throttle trace here, and Verstappen is full throttle just for a moment, then blends out, and he gets back to full throttle way quicker. And his speed is so much quicker down towards that second chicane, and that is where Leclerc was passed. So possibly, if Leclerc had have been able to match Verstappen, who pitted on the same lap as him, if he'd been able to match Verstappen's outlap through that first chicane, he might have been able to keep Perez behind at this point. But Leclerc's outlap was pretty good as well. It just shows really the level that Verstappen was at in this Grand Prix. He didn't have a huge amount to do because he was so in command, and that is the reason he was so in command. He's just absolutely on the edge from a very early stage. When you're the race leader, you have everything to lose in these sort of conditions, and Verstappen was still exemplary through that first chicane. But in all of it, Perez back ahead of Leclerc, and he was able to act as a great buffer to Verstappen. So then we get to the next part, and it's then this pit stop here. And it's a pit stop that didn't really necessarily look like it was necessary. Charles Leclerc was speaking to his engineer, and they were saying actually just go to the end on the medium tyres. And you can see that is what Norris in the dotted orange and the Russell-Bottas duo just underneath that did as well for the top 5. So they didn't pit at all. But Leclerc, he did pit, and he was probably, there were 2 reasons really for him to pit for some soft tyres. Number one, to try and just force the issue with the Red Bulls ahead and just see if you can go and pit and find a load of grip and chase Sergio Perez for second place. And number 2, to try and get a fastest lap as well. And the way that he pits, it's so close to being great, but crucially, he just dips for 1 lap here beneath Lando Norris's McLaren. So when Leclerc's on his outlap on the soft tyres, he cannot extract the most pace out of it because he just falls behind Norris's McLaren. And it takes him a lap to come through. And that means that Perez can pit the lap after, and then Verstappen can pit. So Red Bull cover off the threat of the softs just in case anything crazy happens on their medium tyres at the end of the race. And they also give both Perez and Verstappen even a slightly better chance of fastest lap by pitting later onto a soft tyre. And it negates everything that Ferrari were trying to do at this point. So Red Bull covered it off well because Leclerc came out just behind Norris. I think if Leclerc had come out ahead of Norris, Red Bull would have probably had to just go to the end on their medium tyres, and probably looking at the way that the others went to the end, they would have been okay still in second place. But it would have been should have been an easy run for Leclerc to get a fastest lap at the least. But Leclerc, he saw a moment here. He saw a great chance to try and get second place again. With the roles reversed slightly, Leclerc then up to speed on some soft tyres. Perez on pitting a lap later, not quite there, and the gap was really small. Didn't manage to pass him the first time around. The second time around, he's so desperate to make it through. The DRS detection is at the exit of this corner here, the Variante Alta, and Leclerc is desperate to banzai it through over these curbs, and he gets it wrong. Lumps the curb, he's out of control, and he's very lucky that this does not result in a retirement for him. Manages to get it back. Could he have gone to the end still on these soft tyres? Did he have to pit? Only Ferrari will know. They have the data live. There was definitely damage to the front wing. That's Lando Norris that's just gone through there, and that was third place. So if he could have possibly gone to the end, it would have been better. But Ferrari obviously saw something up with the car, maybe a puncture, maybe some more significant damage, and took the chance to pit him again. And he finished 6th. So in the end, only 7 points lost compared to if he'd finished 3rd. Not an absolute disaster for what was quite a big mistake then from a championship leader. Now initially, it looks like he just lumped the curb too much. And he certainly is so aggressive on the curbs compared to Sergio Perez. You can see that then. We go back on board with Leclerc. And look at Perez coming through this chicane here. Barely taking any of the sausage curb. He's really, really wide of the sausage curb. Leclerc actually was really quick through this chicane compared to Perez the whole weekend. And I think that's why he's just desperate to get it all in this corner, because the DRS detection on the exit, because this is already a strong corner for him. We saw it on the outlap data between him and Checo as well. Huge amount of performance he was gaining. And whilst Perez gives it a wide berth, Leclerc hammers the curb. And that looks like it's the sole reason for the spin. But actually, if we compare him to the lap before, the line that he takes isn't massively different. We can look here, lap 52, where he's actually a little bit closer to Checo as well, compared to lap 53, where he's a little bit further back and maybe a little bit more desperate to try and close in the gap before the DRS detection point. But as they turn in, there's not a huge amount in the line here. And as they get over the curb, he's mullering it on both of them. The right-hand side, the one he crashes, he's probably fractionally more over the curb, which definitely helps to pitch the car fully in the air and lose control. But he is still nailing the curb on the left-hand side as well. So it's not just purely a function of him hitting the curbs. It's also a function of the speed he carried into the corner. And we can see that here. Leclerc then, on the lap where he crashes, is in the red line, and on the lap where he doesn't, it's the blue. And on the approach then, there's a big difference in speed. He is attacking with a huge amount more speed into this corner. He's braking later, he's braking softer as well, and he is trying to carry just loads more speed on a similar line, maybe even having to compensate and take a fraction more curb because of the fact that he's just taking in way more speed. He needs to open up the left part of the chicane, And that, I think, is the main reason that Leclerc loses the car, combined with a big curb hit, lifts the whole car up. The car's already right on the edge. When it lands, he's still trying to turn it to the left, and it just pitches him into a big spin. So Leclerc, driver error, maybe a little bit greedy in this moment. I think Perez had probably covered him off for second place, but he still wanted it, still so hungry. He's been brilliant so far this season, but this was the first mistake he's made. And he's had so many pressure moments as well. He's delivered on every single one. This one actually was one of the lesser pressure moments. He put himself under pressure to try and get that second place and made really quite an unforced error. But as I said, it only cost him 7 points. So not an absolute disaster as if he had finished the race in the wall.
Sorry to all of you guys.
We'll learn from this and stronger next time.
So that was a look into the fight between Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez that ultimately ended in tears for Leclerc. But there was tears as well at the start of the race, and it was a bit of an off weekend for Lewis Hamilton. For more analysis on that, check it out on F1 TV.